On February 13th, 2017, in Delphi, Indiana, 13-year-old Abigail Joyce Williams and 14-year-old Liberty Rose Lynn German were dropped off by German's older sister, Kelsey German, on County Road 300 North, east of the Hoosier Heartland Highway. The girls were hiking on the Manon High Bridge over Deer Creek. At 2:07 p.m., German used social media to post a photo of Williams walking the bridge. After that, their communication went dark. No more posts. No more calls or texts to relatives to pick them up. Nothing. They were reported missing at 5:30 p.m. after failing to meet German's father at 3:15. The families initially searched for the girls themselves before calling the police. Authorities quickly searched the area, but did not initially suspect foul play. This changed when the bodies of the girls were found around noon the next day, about 0.5 miles east of the abandoned Manon High Bridge. Police did not initially release details of how the girls were murdered. However, after searching the girls' phones and examining the photo reel, Indiana State Police began circulating a still image of an individual seen in the background of one of their photos. The grainy photograph captures a Caucasian male, hands in pockets, head down, walking on the rail bridge towards the girls. However, this wasn't a picture. It was actually a screenshot from a video that the police only recently released to the public. Before that, none knew a video of this moment existed. The person in the video, dubbed the Bridge Guy, was named the prime suspect in the double homicide. One of the most eerie aspects of the case is that law enforcement revealed German's phone had an audio recording in which the suspect's voice, although muffled, is heard speaking.
See, this is the path that we go down. There's no path going there, so we have to go down here. Hi.
It is suspected that this was the killer, instructing the girls to go down the hill off the side of the bridge to a location where he later killed them. For years, the identity of the Bridge Guy remained a mystery, until recently, when Richard Matthew Allen was arrested for the murders. As you can see, he closely matches the body type and face featured in the video and screenshot. Allen is now in jail, serving 2 back-to-back life sentences for each murder. Though this case is at long last solved and the perpetrator has been caught, this single audio recording, captured on German's smartphone, stands as one of the darkest audio recordings one can find on the web. That's right, it's time to dive back in for a second installment of the internet's darkest audio.
Did you hit him with the
Amber Alyssa Tuccaro was born on January 3rd, 1990, in Alberta, Canada. Amber was a devoted mother to her 14-month-old son, Jacob, and was known for her vibrant spirit and deep connections with her family and community. Yet her life was tragically cut short, becoming one of the haunting cases within the broader crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in Canada. In August of 2010, Amber traveled from Fort McMurray to Edmonton with her 14-month-old son and a female friend. The trio checked into a motel near Edmonton International Airport in Nisku. However, on the evening of August 18th, Amber decided to leave the motel alone to hitch a ride into Edmonton, while her son and friend remained behind. It was a decision that would lead to tragedy. Amber was eventually picked up by an unknown man. She received a phone call during the ride in which the male driver can be heard in the background, assuring Takaro that they are heading east on a back road towards Edmonton. Amber's final moments were partially captured in this chilling audio recording that would not come to light until 2 years later. In the recording, Amber can be heard speaking with the driver, her voice filled with increasing anxiety. She questions the man's direction as he drives her further south, away from Edmonton. Have a listen.
Where are we by?
We're just heading south of Beaumont, or north of Beaumont.
We're heading north to Beaumont. Yo, where are we going? No, this is a... Are you f***ing kidding me? You better not be taking me anywhere I don't want to go. I want to go into the city. Jeez. Yo, we're not going into the city, are we?
We're going
No, we're not.
Yes.
Then where the f*** are these roads going to?
to 50th Street.
50th Street. Are you sure?
Absolutely.
Yo, where are we going?
50th Street.
50th Street?
50th Street.
East, right? Over now.
Travel.
Now.
As you can hear, the man's calm yet sinister responses suggested he was manipulating the situation as Amber's fear grew. It also shows Amber's surety that they were going the wrong way, and the man's persistent insistence on taking back roads to get to their location. The release of this audio in 2012 was meant to aid in identifying the driver, but instead, it left the public grappling with the eerie reality of Amber's final moments. For 2 long years, Amber's family endured the anguish of this uncertainty. The Royal Canadian Mountie Police initially dismissed Amber as a runaway, a painful and all too common dismissal faced by Indigenous families seeking justice for their loved ones, because on September 1st, 2012, a grim discovery was made in a rural field near Leduc, Alberta, approximately 17 kilometers from where Amber was last seen. Human remains were found and later identified through dental records as belonging to Amber Takaro. Her death was ruled a homicide, yet the circumstances surrounding her abduction and murder remained shrouded in mystery. The release of the audio recording, as said before, was intended to spark leads and draw attention to the unidentified driver's voice. While it did raise public awareness, it also highlighted the systemic failures and racial biases within the Canadian justice system. Despite the national attention and the haunting evidence in the form of the audio recording, Amber's killer remains at large to this day. Amber's story resonates far beyond her own tragedy. It serves as a painful reminder of the countless Indigenous women who have been taken from their families, their cases often ignored or mishandled by authorities. It is a call to action for systemic reform and justice for Indigenous communities who have long suffered from the violence and indifference that permeates the legal system. And unfortunately, all we have now, for the time being, is this dark audio recording depicting her final moments. There's little left to say about this infamous day in our nation's history that already hasn't been explored through many documentaries, films, articles, podcasts, and audiobooks over the past 23 years. Yet if you're unfamiliar with the events of that tragic day, on September 11th, 2001, American Airlines Flight 11 departed from Logan Airport in Boston, bound for Los Angeles. Shortly after takeoff, 5 hijackers linked to the terrorist group Al-Qaeda seized control of the plane, redirecting it towards New York City. At 8:46 a.m., Flight 11 crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center between the 93rd and 99th floors. Many at the time believed it was an accidental crash, a private airliner whose pilot got disoriented and crashed into the building. Needless to say, the many gallons of jet fuel in the plane's engine caused a mammoth conflagration in the upper levels of the skyscraper. As chaos unfolded, United Airlines Flight 175, which also departed from Logan Airport at 8:14 a.m., was hijacked by another group of terrorists. At 9:03, it struck the South Tower of the World Trade Center between the 77th and 85th floors, further shocking the nation and confirming that the attacks were deliberate. Meanwhile, American Airlines Flight 77, which took off from Washington Dulles International Airport at 8:20 a.m., was itself also hijacked and flown into the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia at 9:37 a.m. The impact caused massive destruction to the western side of the building. A fourth plane, United Airlines Flight 93, departed Newark International Airport at 8:42 a.m., bound for San Francisco. When the passengers learned of the other attacks through phone calls to loved ones, they bravely attempted to regain control of the aircraft. Their actions prevented the hijackers from reaching their intended target, likely the U.S. Capitol or the White House. At 10:03 a.m., Flight 93 crashed into a field near Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Back in New York City, the devastation escalated as the South Tower collapsed at 9:59 a.m. after burning for 56 minutes. The North Tower followed at 10:28 a.m. after burning for 102 minutes. The collapse of the towers resulted in the deaths of thousands of people, including first responders who had rushed to the scene to aid those trapped inside. The sheer force of the collapse sent a massive cloud of toxic dust and debris billowing through lower Manhattan, causing severe health issues for many survivors and first responders in the years that followed. One of the most haunting moments among the many from September 11th was the desperate 911 call made by Kevin Cosgrove, a business executive trapped on the 105th floor of the South Tower. Cosgrove was in a conference room with 2 colleagues, Doug Cherry and Ron DeFrancesco, when United Airlines Flight 175 struck the South Tower between the 77th and 85th floors. At approximately 9:54 a.m., Cosgrove dialed 911. His call, routed to an emergency dispatcher, captures a man grappling with fear and frustration as he sought help. Throughout the conversation, his tone oscillated between calm and desperate as he provided his location and pleaded for assistance. This recording is deeply disturbing, and listener discretion is advised.
I'm waiting for MC to pick up. What's the telephone number you're calling? The AMC. You can do anything there, 441-2623. 441-2623. It's on 105th floor, the northwest corner, right? Right. At number 2 World Trade Center, right? Fire department, 408. Sorry, this is 15. Let me talk to the call, PD. At 15, let me talk to the call. He's on the line. Let me talk to him. Where's the fire staff? There's smoke. He's there. 105, 2 power. All right, 2 power. We'll get to you as soon as we can. There's some staying up. The smoke is there, man. That's all we can do. All right, which way you guys up to? We're getting there. Doesn't feel like it, man. I got 1, 2. I understand that, sir. We're on the way. And then I had to do in green now. Okay. Just had to hang it there. I'm going to go with the put an air conditioned building. That's you, man. That cherry, you said, right? Yeah. That cherry next to me. 105. You got this? John Astro's office. That's the office. John Astro's office. OST. ARU. ARU. Right. That's the office here. As soon as you're here. OST. ARU. Hello? Hello? We're looking at financial center. Between us, 2 broken windows. Oh, God! Ah!
Kevin Cosgrove's call stands as a testament to the courage and humanity displayed by the victims of 9/11. It personalizes the tragedy, highlighting the profound loss endured by thousands of families. His words in anguish continue to resonate, serving as both a historical record and a poignant reminder of the need for unity and resilience in the face of adversity. And it remains one of the most chilling and harrowing 911 calls in history. Okay, buckle in for this one. No mystery or buildup. No beating around the bush. We're diving straight into this one. Straight into the People's Temple. What more could be said about Jim Jones and the People's Temple? In my view, it remains the most devastating cult to ever emerge from the United States, and its leader, Jim Jones, one of the most sinister figures to have ever lived. Through years of manipulation, psychological abuse, and mind control, Jones led his followers to an unthinkable fate, culminating in what I consider the most chilling piece of audio ever recorded, at least among those available to the public. But to truly grasp the weight, context, and horror of this recording, we must first go back to the beginning. Crete, Indiana, 1931. Jim Jones was born in this small Indiana town near the genesis of the Great Depression. Eventually, his family moved from Crete to Lynn, Indiana. His father was a World War I veteran who was disassociated and detached, having severe trauma from the war and never being able to get over it. Various health issues his father had made him unable to keep a job, which led to financial difficulties, which then in turn led to resentment in Jones's parents' relationship. His mother, Lynn, was the more dominant personality in the family, and a churchwoman, who tended to gas Jones up constantly, telling him he was destined to be the greatest man to ever walk the earth. Their financial hardship only deepened during the Great Depression, forcing the family into a shack with no plumbing or electricity. As his parents drifted in and out of his life, Jim spent most of his childhood wandering the streets, often cared for by neighbors. Obsessed with religion and death, Jones held mock funerals for animals, sometimes roadkill, sometimes allegedly ones he killed himself. He claimed supernatural powers, once even leaping from a rooftop to prove he could fly. Spoiler alert, he could not. While most children in town couldn't wait for local church service to be over, Jones literally bounced between churches. He was enthralled not by scripture nor by the word of God, but by the charisma of the preacher. The way the preacher made his congregation hang on every word and moment enlightened young Jim. He was addicted. and he would go around to every church in Lynn despite denomination, very much adhering to the revival Pentecostal tent sermons that had faith healings, speaking in tongues, and just all-out religious mania. Something to remember for later. But his devotion wasn't always reverent. Jones later claimed he committed sacrilegious pranks, stealing a minister's Bible, defiling scripture, even replacing holy water with his own urine. Beyond his fixation on religion, Jones became obsessed with the idea of power. He devoured books on Hitler, Stalin, Marx, and Gandhi, later even calling Mao Zedong his hero. The townspeople grew uneasy when he openly praised Nazi Germany. He made the neighborhood kids march in formation, punishing those who refused. One childhood friend even recalled Jones shouting Heil Hitler to passing German POWs. In high school, Jim Jones stood out, always dressed in church clothes, carrying a Bible, and confronting peers over drinking and smoking. He avoided sports, preferring to coach younger kids, and frequently interrupted social events to preach. His awareness of racism grew after witnessing discrimination at a baseball game, leading to a break with his father, a Ku Klux Klan member. After his parents' divorce, Jones moved with his mother to Richmond, Indiana, graduating early in 1948. While working as an orderly at Reed Hospital, he met and married nurse-in-training Marceline Baldwin in 1949. Their marriage was strained by his opposition to religious segregation and emotional manipulation. See, Jones often tested her loyalty with cruel deceptions. He briefly attended Indiana University before shifting focus after hearing Eleanor Roosevelt speak on racial injustice. By 1951, the couple moved to Indianapolis, where Jones took night classes at Butler University, earning a degree in secondary education in 1961. He became involved with the Communist Party, facing FBI scrutiny. Frustrated by anti-communist persecution, he saw a new strategy. How can I demonstrate my Marxism? The thought was, infiltrate the church. In early 1952, Jim Jones announced his intent to become a Methodist minister, believing the church could implement true socialism. But in truth, Jones was probably more agnostic and absolutely wanted to use religion and Christianity as a Trojan horse for his true efforts to popularize communism and treat it as both a political ideology and a religion. Despite his communist ties, a Methodist superintendent helped him secure a position. That summer, he became a student pastor at Somerset Southside Methodist Church, where he advocated for racial integration by establishing an open playground. Jones continued preaching at Pentecostal churches and in 1953 attended a Latter Rain convention where he was prophesied to be a great religious leader. Inspired, he shifted from Methodism to Pentecostalism, convincing his wife to follow. He began preaching at Indianapolis's Laurel Street Tabernacle, holding healing revivals and speaking at Latter Rain events. By 1955, opposition from the Assemblies of God led him to break away and form his own church, initially called Wings of Healing, later renamed the People's Temple. With only 20 followers and little financial support, Jones resorted to selling pet monkeys to fund his ministry while seeking ways to grow his congregation. In 1960, Indianapolis Mayor Charles Boswell appointed Jim Jones as director of the local Human Rights Commission. Ignoring advice to keep a low profile, Jones used media platforms to promote his views. Defying city officials, he urged militancy at the NAACP and Urban League meeting, declaring, "Let my people go." In fact, as author Jeff Gwynne would later say in an interview, if Jones had died that year, he would have been remembered as an exemplar of the civil rights movement. By 1961, Indianapolis was significantly more integrated, largely due to Jones's efforts. Jones and his wife adopted several non-white children, calling their household a rainbow family, though many believe that this was all for show. And in 1961 became the first white couple in Indiana to adopt a black child, whom they named Jim Jones Jr. As time went on, Jones wanted more control over his followers. He wanted to, for all intents and purposes, own them. And one surefire way to make your congregation double down on your control over them is with an external threat. So Jones delivered a chilling prophecy to his congregation. A nuclear apocalypse would soon destroy Indianapolis. Desperate to escape the impending doom, in January of 1962, he set off to find a new home for the People's Temple. Throughout 1964, Jones made scouting trips to California, and by July 1965, he led 140 of his most devoted followers to a remote town in Redwood Valley, California. The move was insidious, as it made Jones have absolute control over his followers, because now People's Temple was more than just a church. It was a commune. With the move, Jones officially transitioned from pastor to cult leader. In California, Jones took a teaching job in Ukiah, using his position to covertly recruit for People's Temple. He planted loyal members in his classes, preached Marxism under the guise of history lessons, and gained 50 new followers within months. Jones's ambitions continued to grow. In 1968, People's Temple joined the Disciples of Christ, a mainstream denomination with 1.5 million members, allowing him to masquerade as a legitimate religious leader. Jim Jones's theology blended influences from William Branham, the Latter Rain movement, and Father Divine's divine economic socialism, merging them with his communist ideology. He gradually introduced his full beliefs, teaching that religion was in fact an opiate, and that true enlightenment meant embracing socialism. He denounced traditional Christianity as oppressive, calling its god a sky god, and declaring himself the only true divine figure. By the early 1970s, he openly claimed to be God, telling his followers, quote, "I am come as God's socialist." He positioned himself as the Messiah who would lead his followers to a post-apocalyptic socialist utopia. Publicly, he cloaked his communist views in religious language, fearing political backlash and the loss of the temple's tax-exempt status. But there's also something else about Jones that needs to be underlined. He was a drug addict, and his drug use escalated while they lived in Redwood Valley, intensifying his natural paranoia. He claimed enemies, ranging from the Ku Klux Klan to the US government, sought to destroy the temple. He prophesied disasters for those who doubted him and demanded absolute loyalty. Through the temple's planning commission, which was Jones's inner circle, the head staff, if you will, of People's Temple, who also, paradoxically to his civil rights ventures and black rights activism, were all white. He controlled every aspect of his followers' lives. Members handed over their assets, worked for the temple, and as said before, lived communally. Reports of abuse also soon emerged. The planning commission disciplined members who failed to meet Jones's demands. He controlled relationships, coerced abortions, and sexually exploited both male and female followers. Dissenters faced public humiliation, harsh labor, food deprivation, and physical violence. As the temple expanded, Jones established an armed security force to maintain order and protect himself. This security force he named the Red Brigade. One of the most pivotal moments in the People's Temple's psychological conditioning occurred when Jim Jones staged his own death. On an ordinary afternoon, he pretended to be shot, convincing his followers that he was dying. The commune mourned their leader, until Jones suddenly emerged from the room that he was allegedly dying in, blood still on his shirt, claiming to have healed himself and risen from the dead. While a few knew it was a deception, most believed they had witnessed a true miracle, further solidifying his divine status in their eyes. On another occasion, one dark night, Jones gathered his planning commission and offered them wine, a rare gesture for the group. After they drank, he revealed a chilling truth to them. The wine was poisoned, and they were all going to die. Panic swept through the group, but some eventually calmed, accepting their fate. Then Jones revealed it was all a ruse, a test of their devotion and their courage in the face of death. It was a horrifying trial, one that would haunt those who endured it. By the end of 1969, People's Temple was rapidly expanding. Jones's message of economic socialism and racial equality, coupled with its integrated nature, attracted students and racial minorities. By 1970, the temple had open branches in San Fernando, San Francisco, and Los Angeles, with its headquarters eventually moving to San Francisco. By 1973, membership had reached 2,570. Around this time, Jones escalated with his fraudulent faith healings that he had been doing for years, staging them now for larger crowds. He had members of the Planning Commission fake healings, including having them cough up pieces of chicken cutlets to represent tumors after Jones had, quote-unquote, healed them. One of the most deceptive incidents involved members of the Planning Commission drugging a parishioner and placing a cast on her leg. When she woke, she was told she had an accident and broken her leg, an event she didn't remember but accepted. During a sermon, Jones commanded her leg to heal, and she removed the cast and was able to run. To the congregation, this was hailed as his greatest miracle. However, many suffered due to these fake healings. One elderly woman, convinced Jones had healed her of cancer, declined medical treatment and eventually died. Jones's influence grew in local politics in San Francisco as well, helping George Moscone with the mayoral election in 1975. He was appointed chairman of the San Francisco Housing Authority Commission. Through his political connections, Jones met key figures like Assemblyman Willie Brown, Governor Jerry Brown, and Harvey Milk, who praised Jones publicly. Jones also established ties with national political leaders, including vice presidential candidate Walter Mondale and First Lady Rosalind Carter, further boosting his influence and receiving favorable press. But inside People's Temple, things were falling apart. Jones was constantly high on barbiturates, and his paranoia grew as he feared members of the church were plotting his downfall. See, it's likely that Jones knew he was a fraud, and that many of his actions were criminal. He continued to sexually abuse both men and women within the church. He staged boxing matches with members he deemed delinquent, and had his inner circle brutally beat people while he watched, snickering and commenting from the sidelines. What truly exposed the corruption within the temple, however, was Jones forcing some parishioners to sign over the rights of their children to him. Let's take a step back. See, in late 1973, Jones and the Planning Commission began planning an escape from the U.S. in case of a government raid. Jones wanted to build a utopia, a place he could recognize his harem fantasy with his followers and have complete control over them. He eventually selected Guyana as a location for a long-term relocation. He preferred Guyana as it was 1. Socialist, 2. had a ton of remote jungle, and 3. because it was a developing country that happily accepted Jones's payment for the land. By October of that year, the group unanimously agreed to establish an agricultural commune in the jungle close to the village of Port Kaituma. By 1974, land and supplies for the commune were secured, and Jones oversaw the construction of the facilities. In March of 1977, a New West article exposed abuse within the temple, prompting Jones to push for a speeding up of the construction of Jonestown. He marketed the commune to his followers in the U.S. as an Eden, a socialist paradise and sanctuary from the media. But the true moment of Jones's reckoning came when he brought a child named John Victor Stone to Guyana, claiming to be the child's biological father after having a relationship with Grace Stone, a member of the Planning Commission and John's mother. Grace left People's Temple in 1976, leaving her son behind, and Jones ordered the child's relocation to Guyana in February of 1977 to prevent a custody dispute. In autumn of 1977, Timothy and Grace Stone and other defectors formed the Concerned Relatives Group, seeking the return of their family members from Jonestown. The Stones' efforts gained attention from Congressman Leo Ryan and led to a legal battle for the custody of John Victor. By 1978, Jones faced mounting pressure from all sides and finally left the U.S. for Guyana and Jonestown. Along with him went over 800 members of People's Temple, who all emigrated in shifts from ports all over the country. Most of the members who went were elderly black women who had given up all their assets and money to the church. Many survivors of Jonestown recounted their journey to the settlement, expecting a radiant Eden. However, upon arrival, they quickly realized it was anything but paradise. There were nowhere near enough homes for everyone. While Jim Jones had promised each family their own dwelling, in reality, 3 or even 4 families had to cram into small cabins, some often forced to sleep on the floor. Jones envisioned Jonestown as a self-sustaining community, yet the crops were wilted and there was no livestock. The jungle soil was unsuitable for farming, causing crops to fail repeatedly. Most of their food had to be imported from Georgetown, the country's capital, but supplies were scarce. Allegedly, meals consisted primarily of rice and gravy, served for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and a lot of times that rice and gravy had maggots in it. The most alarming discovery was the presence of watchtowers, fences, and the expansion of the Red Brigade, the armed guards that were Jones' personal security force. It became clear that once inside Jonestown, escape was nearly impossible. Those who tried to leave risked being shot, and even if they made it past the guards, the vast, unforgiving jungle stood in their way. To further ensure compliance, new arrivals were forced to surrender their passports, preventing their return to the U.S. Temple members were expected to work from sunrise to sunset, laboring under a sweltering sun. After grueling days of fieldwork, they gathered each evening at the Central Pavilion to listen to Jones preach, sermons that lasted for hours, all of which were mostly unintelligible due to his drug-addled brain. Sleep deprivation became a powerful tool of control. According to Terry Buford O'Shea, one of the few escapees, Jones deliberately kept his followers exhausted. She recalled him saying, quote, "Let's keep them poor and tired, because if they're poor, they can't escape, and if they're tired, they can't make plans." Disobedience was met with severe punishment, including solitary confinement in a coffin-shaped box buried underground, while fellow members were ordered to berate and reprimand the offender. All the while, Jones secluded himself in his personal quarters, indulging in food, alcohol, and drugs. He was heavily addicted to Valium, Quaaludes, stimulants, and barbiturates, spending his days in a drug-fueled haze. He would make slurred, paranoid announcements over a loudspeaker that blared 24/7, ensuring his presence was inescapable. And among all this, Jonestown was crumbling. The community was running out of money to import food, medicine, and essential supplies. Supporting over 800 people was unsustainable, and Jones knew it. His mental and physical health were rapidly deteriorating. In late 1978, after learning he might have a lung infection, he exaggerated his condition, falsely claiming to have lung cancer to elicit sympathy from his followers. Jones would regularly wake his followers in the dead of night for what he called white nights. During these white nights, he would tell them that external enemies, U.S. forces or the Guyanese government, were coming to slaughter them and abduct their children for torture. He would then order them to gather in the pavilion and prepare for revolutionary suicide, only to later declare that the crisis had passed. These false alarms were designed to condition his followers for the real event he had planned. Meanwhile, back in the US, concerned relatives were pressuring the government for answers. Congressman Leo Ryan, known for his hands-on investigative approach, decided to visit Jonestown himself. In November of 1978, he led a delegation, including concerned relatives, an NBC News crew, and newspaper reporters, to assess the situation. Upon arrival in Georgetown on November 15th, they then traveled to Jonestown 2 days later. Jones was terrified. He knew Ryan's visit could expose the truth, and despite warnings, Ryan refused to bring security, wanting to appear diplomatic rather than confrontational. When the delegation arrived, Jones orchestrated a carefully staged spectacle. A grand feast was laid out, far more food than the residents ever had access to. The delegation interviewed members, all of whom claimed to be happy. That night, Ryan gave a speech at the pavilion stating it appeared the people living there were indeed content. However, things quickly unraveled. Temple member Vernon Gosney secretly slipped a note to NBC reporter Don Harris, requesting help for himself and another member named Monica Bagby to escape. Word of the note spread, and by the next day, more residents were begging Ryan and his team for help. Jones watched in fury. His control was slipping. His son Stefan Jones later recalled that his father's sense of self-worth was entirely tied to his followers' loyalty. Anyone leaving was a direct insult to him. His paranoia and narcissism were morphing into pure vengeful malice. Gosney was worried that him and other dissenters would be hurt by Jones's cronies, and as Ryan assured Gosney that he was under congressional protection, a cult member suddenly attacked the congressman with a knife. Ryan escaped unscathed, but realized then that his safety was indeed an illusion. He did not have congressional protection. He was in the lion's den. Knowing that the situation was escalating, Ryan and his team left Jonestown with 15 defectors, heading for Port Kaituma airstrip. A large metal tub of grape flavor aid, laced with cyanide, had been prepared before Ryan's arrival, proving the upcoming massacre was indeed premeditated. As Ryan's group boarded with 2 planes, Jones sent his armed Red Brigade after them. The gunmen ambushed the delegation, shooting and killing Ryan and 4 others. NBC reporter Don Harris, cameraman Bob Brown, San Francisco Examiner photographer Greg Robinson, and Temple defector Patricia Parks. Several others, including Ryan's aide Jackie Spear, Vernon Gosney, and Monica Bagby, were wounded but managed to escape into the jungle. Later on that same day, after learning that some of Ryan's party had escaped, Jim Jones believed the U.S. military would soon invade Jonestown. He gathered the community at the pavilion, declaring that Ryan was dead and the commune faced imminent attack. He told followers that the Soviet Union would no longer accept them and proposed revolutionary suicide. People were ordered to line up and drink the poisoned concoction. Many resisted, unwilling to die, voicing their protests, only to be met on deaf ears. Armed guards forced some to drink at gunpoint. Others were injected, including children, and some were even shot. Fear and despair took hold, compelling many to comply. As his followers screamed and moaned in agony, Jim Jones continued speaking, assuring them it was the right thing to do and that it wouldn't hurt, despite cyanide causing one of the most excruciating deaths one could have. Much of this horror was captured on a now infamous recording called the Death Tape. And I warn you, viewer discretion is very advised.
How very much I've loved you. How very much I've tried my best to give you the good life. But in spite of all of that I've tried, A handful of our people, with their lies, have made our life impossible. There's no way to detach ourselves from what's happened today. Not only we're in a compound situation, not only are there those who have left and committed the betrayal of the century. Some have stolen children from others, and they're in pursuit right now to kill them because they stole their children. And we are sitting here waiting on a powder keg. I don't think this is what we want to do with our babies. I don't think that's what we had in mind to do with our babies. It was said by the greatest of prophets from time immemorial, no man takes my life from me, I lay my life down. The Red Brigade showed them justice. The congressman's dead. It's too late. The congressman's dead. The Congress today's dead. Many of our traitors are dead. They're all laying out there dead. Who wants to go with their child has a right to go with their child. I think it's humane. Quickly, 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 quickly. Sisters. These are people, the peddlers of hate. All we're doing is laying down our life. We're not letting them take our life. We're laying down our life. Must be insane. Children, it's just something to put you to rest. Oh, God. Mother, 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 please. Mother, please, 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 don't do this, don't do this. Lay down your life with your child, but don't do this. That's what death is, sleep. I'm tired of it all. We've such 1,000 people who say we don't like the way the world is. Who's done? Take our life from us. We laid it down. We got tired. We didn't commit suicide. We committed an act of revolutionary suicide, protesting the conditions of an inhumane world.
The dead in Jonestown were laid in rows and trenches, but many were deliberately positioned to create the illusion of a peaceful, unified suicide. It was anything but. Jones himself, unable to face the same fate, had a Red Brigade member shoot him in the head. The painful death he imposed on others, he refused for himself, a testament to his cowardice. In total, 909 people died, including 276 children, making it the deadliest act of deliberate American civilian loss until 9/11. Survivors included those who fled into the jungle, hid in buildings, or were away on business, including Stephon Jones and Jim Jones Jr. Many argue that this was not a mass suicide, but a mass murder orchestrated by Jones, and I would say they are very correct. After the massacre, the People's Temple was dissolved, and the jungle has since reclaimed Jonestown. Ultimately, Jim Jones was a manipulative, despicable man who could not face the consequences of his own actions. He was indeed suicidal and longed for death, not wanting to deal with the pressures of the house of cards that he had built around himself. But instead of dying alone, he took 909 innocent lives with him through deception and control. Every single one of them could have survived. Few, if any, would have faced legal repercussions. It remains an unfathomable tragedy, and the death tape stands as one of the darkest recordings on the internet and in history. The internet is a vast archive of history's darkest moments. Whether it is the Jonestown death tape, distress calls from doomed flights, chilling 911 recordings, or the eerie last words caught on a phone call, These sounds have the power to disturb, fascinate, and remind us of the fragility of life. They are echoes of tragedy, permanently etched into the digital age. But with that darkness comes a responsibility. These recordings aren't just for morbid curiosity. They are cautionary tales, reminders of what people are capable of, both good and evil. They serve as lessons, warnings, and grim reflections of the past. For those who choose to listen, tread carefully. Some sounds once heard can never be unheard. Thank you for joining me tonight on the Darkhives. This was a marathon, and I appreciate you making it to the end. Thank you endlessly for watching my videos. It means the world. And as always, stay safe out there.